Hello guys, so I'm back here with another session of Python. So today is supposed to be the last session, and I think I have covered mostly everything that is required for a beginner's course that you need to know, like all the data types and all the help on the functions we have talked about. So let me take you towards the screen, and then we can have a good idea of what we were doing and what we are supposed to do today. So you already know that we have gone through all of these. So we understood how to name variables and what are the rules, and then we went through in depth through data types, and we talked about strings and list operations. Then we went through functions and operators as well. And in the last session, we were talking about loops and conditional statements. So today we are going to conclude our session by talking about dictionaries and tuples, which are basically data types. So you can see that I have already introduced this thing before in the data types, but we didn't talk about them. So today we will go into detail and we will see things. So a dictionary is, if I can make it simple for you, it's just a data type of Python, like we have seen other data types, like integers, strings, lists. So list is just a collection of items. Dictionary is similar. It's also a collection of items. You can think of it as a common term we use. Dictionary is for other, for example, in languages. If you want to look for a translation of a word, so a word can have three or more, maybe one, two, or three or more meanings. So it's the same in here. The same concept is applied in Python. So you can have one word, and you can have different data that are associated to that one word. So that one word that you're looking for is called a key. And the data that is associated or is stored or you can find there is called the value of that key. So value is associated to the key. So if I say that what is a dictionary is nothing but this collection of items, and each item contains a key value pair. So key is pointing towards that item, and value is just the data stored in that item. So, so you can think of dictionaries similar as lists, because lists are a collection of items, and dictionary as well as a collection of items. But in the list, we saw that we can like retrieve data from the list by choosing integer indexes. But in dictionaries, you cannot do that. You cannot retrieve the data using integer indexes, but you have to use the key. So that brings me towards this thing here. Dictionaries are unordered. So that's why you need to use keys to retrieve the data, because a list is ordered. Like it is ordered by how you put the data in the list. So if you put something at last in the list, in a list, it will be indexed at the last position. Okay, but in the dictionaries, data is not ordered, so it can be anywhere. You know, so you cannot say that okay, go to the dictionary, go to index 0 and give me the value stored there. It doesn't work like that. So you say go to the dictionary and you provide the key. Okay, this is the key, and give me the data for a specific value there. So yeah, we have gone through this point that that's where dictionaries and lists go apart, because you cannot simply index a dictionary as you do in a list. And this point is simple. We have already talked about it. So yeah, let us talk about a few things. So I think without wasting any time, I should move towards the Python programmer that we were using. But here's a list that we are going to go through today. So we will talk about how can you create the dictionary, how can you create the keys in a dictionary, and then you need to store, of course, data in that dictionary, and how to access the keys and the items of the dictionaries. We have already talked about it. So yeah, let's move towards the main program here. So in our last 3 sessions, we had some problems by using the online Jupyter notebook. So today I will be moving towards Visual Studio instead of the online thing. So yeah, I think okay, it is here. So this is simple Visual Studio. You can and I have installed this Python notebook on top of the Visual Studio. And when we go through this, it comes in very handy when you're using it as programming. And I think you need to go through other videos that are available to find out more about Visual Studio Code. Yeah, so it is Visual Studio Code. So it helps you to code your things. So today we are going to talk about Python notebook. So that's why you see the extension is IPYNB. So it's called a Python notebook. So yeah. So we have already talked about, we know how Jupyter Notebook works. So you have blocks and you can introduce your code into different blocks and you can execute each block separately. So the same you can do here. For example, if I hit this plus button, I introduce new blocks. So I can even delete these blocks. And so let's start with the dictionary. So there are two methods to create a dictionary. One method will be, so let's say I can say here, my dict equals. One method is this. You use these curly brackets and it creates a dictionary. It returns an empty dictionary, of course, because I don't provide any items yet. And you can use, so here you see it's very handy because it is giving you the suggestion that you are already used this variable. So let's say I use this variable and I put ID here 1. And so the other method is this. You can use dict. So you see it already gives you this. And then you use this brackets. So both methods are the same. They work very well. Yeah, so in the last video, we have talked about, we can check the type of the variables that we are using. So I will just show you the type. So just put here type. And in the brackets, you put my dict. Okay. So let's say, let me just copy this. Okay. So we have already talked about this thing. And I will do the same to look for the other one. And if I run this, so you see both of them are dicts. So it's a dict class. It means it's a dictionary. So that's how you can create empty dictionaries. But you need to enter some values in the dictionaries. So yeah, let's move on and we can talk about it. I like to use this method, but it's up to you. It's just a matter of choice, like which method you like to use. So let's copy this here. So you want to enter now the keys, and then you want to enter the values. So what data type can be associated to a key? So what kind of data a key can be? So in Python, you can have only two types. You can have a string, or you can have a integer as a key. There is a third type that I will introduce to you later in the session today. So for the moment, let's stick to two types only. So first of all, you can have a string. Let's say you can say that, okay, what is the name? So the name is a key, and then you have to enter this colon. So this column tells you that on the left side is a key, and whatever is on the right side is a value. So you can, so as a value, you can have any data. You can have all possible data types that I have talked in the previous sessions. So let's say we start building this with all the data types. So yeah, so as my name is Muhammad Adin, so let's say I put my name here. And then when you want to enter a new key, you just need to put a comma here, and that's it. And then you can do the same steps here. So let's say this was the name, and let's say we want to know which session we are doing here. So this session is the fourth one, I guess. So I just put an integer here, 4, and so we have. So these are two data types, yeah. So key, for the moment, key has a string in it, but the value, I introduced a string, I introduced an integer, and I forgot the comma here, so I should put a comma here. And then I can introduce an integer here as a key. So let's say I put 20 as a key. Yeah. So and then I put a colon to differentiate between key and value. And here, let's say we put a list. Put anything. So let's say I put another thing here. I call it flag. Yeah. So let's say flag is true. Okay. So you also have a boolean. So you have now introduced 4 data types. Yeah, a string, an integer. You have a list. You have a boolean. So let's say we introduce another. So I'm just naming randomly. So let's say the value of the data stored here is a float. So 2.02. Yeah, randomly. So by doing this, my dictionary is created already. Now, what do I want to do? So let's say one thing is that you remember what are the keys in a dictionary, and you want to access the value stored there. It's very simple. You do the same as we did with we did with the list. Yeah. So you use this square brackets as you did with the list, but there is only one difference. Like there, you use the integer index of the data you are looking for, but here in a dictionary you use the key that will point you towards the data you are looking for. So let's say I want to look for which session I have stored here. So I'll just do this and let me run this. So you get this straight away. It gives you 4. You get it. Okay. So now let's say you have something else that you want to introduce in this dictionary here. You want to introduce a new key value pair. It's very simple. You just do it like this. You just pick up this name here. You give this brackets. So now you already know that inside the brackets you need to give the key. So let's say you want to introduce a new key here, which is I don't know. Let's say I call it a number. And then you put the equal to sign. So we already know that this is an assignment operator. So it's saying that assign the value to something on the left. What is the value? Let's say my value is a list, and it's a list of strings. Let's say I put all the types in. Yeah, float. We have a string, and then we have C in the list as a data type. and then we have everything in a dictionary. You run this, and now you want to access this one. You want to see if it was stored there or not. You just do this. So you see it was stored. And if you just do like this, you just look for this variable mydict. You don't know what it is, so you want to see. You can just do it like this. So you see, now you understand that these curly brackets, they are telling you that this is a dictionary. So there are two ways. Like you can either do just print the type of your variable, or simply just print the variable. You will know what is going on there. So this tells you that this is a dictionary here. So let's say you are. So what are the other things that you can do with this one? So wait, yeah. So we have already talked about creating a dictionary, how to create and input key value pairs, how to retrieve those keys and look for the values. And now I will introduce how to look for the key value pair inside a dictionary. Like for example, you don't know what is stored in the dictionary, you don't know the keys, and you want to understand what is going on here. So all you have to do is like you have to look for the items stored in there. So and every item is a key value pair. So you can simply say for, you can introduce a variable here for key, comma, and you can say value. Just put in, you remember in gives you the iterable to anything that is on the right here. So you can say inside this variable. And then you have to put a dot here. So you see, as soon as I put dot, it gives me all the methods that I can use with this variable. So I'm looking for items. So my items, I'm looking for the items stored in this one. You have to put these brackets because it's a method. So yeah. So now let's say I say print key, and let's say print value, comma, and you run this. Very nice. Yeah. So you see your key is name, and then the value there is one other thing. Then your key is session, then your value is 4, then you have, so you get the idea of how you can access the items of the dictionary. Or you can make it more look more like visible. So let's say I can put value here, and just put key here, and yeah. So now you see it's more easy to read. So anything on the left of this column is your key, and anything on the right is your value stored to that key. So dictionaries are used for different purposes. For example, it is a very lame example, but you can use a dictionary to store database, which I will not suggest you do it, but let's do an example. So, for example, you can say mydict equals. So if you want to store a database where you can have, let's say, name, and then you can have the address, you can have the phone number as well. So you can have phone number, different things related to that person. So you can have height of that person. So you will not have one value stored that will be pointing towards each of these keys. Yeah, you will have different. So, for example, you don't have one name. So that if I have one name, it means I have only one data stored here, and then I need to introduce another variable and I need to introduce another variable. So we want to do everything in one variable. So what you do here is that you create an empty list. So what you are doing now, you are pointing name. So you are pointing this empty list towards this key name, and you do the same for others as well. And just remove this off. And if I print this one, my dictionary, you see for the moment you can see that it's just a list, empty list. Everything that is inside stored inside this dictionary. You see the keys and you see the values, just an empty list. You can add data here. So let's say I want to say my date. Then I call this variable name. Now this variable. So now I can think of it as only one variable. My date is my date, and then I put the key here. So think of it as a variable pointing towards this list. So now it's a list. Yeah. So now it is an empty list. Sorry. So now you can use all the methods that we have already used for a list, because now it's not a dictionary anymore. It's a list. This one. So you can use, let's say, dot. You can use a dot append method, or if I remove it. So you see all these methods that you're looking at here. These methods, they belong to a list, and we are going to use append method. And let me append a string here. So using this, you are going to do the same with the others. Yeah. So let's say address, and then you have phone number. So let's say address is Ireland, and phone number is just not some number, and then you have the height. So yeah, I don't want to tell you actual number, but let's say it's 5. And then you have so you see here what happened here. This pen changed its color, and this bracket also changed its color. Why? Because we have already talked about it. If you want to introduce exclamatory marks inside a string, you have to use double quotes either outside or you use them inside to make it one string. So now it's one string. Okay. So now I run this, and now you can look for what's stored inside the dictionary. So you see. So now you see everything is a list. Everything that the key points towards is just a list. So you doing this, you can introduce more things here. So let's say Anwar Malik is hosting this session. So Anwar Malik, he lives here in Ireland, and so the number is some different numbers. Yeah. In height, I don't know, let's say 6. Just different things. Yeah. So now if I run this one again, so now you can see Anwar Malik has been appended towards this list here, name, and the list address. Another item has been appended here, and to the phone number you have appended another item. Similarly, towards height you have appended another item. So that's how you can use dictionaries to introduce key value pairs. So I have already talked about this method here to get the key value pairs inside the dictionary. So there is another method that you can use to get the key value pair inside a dictionary, which I have already introduced to you. Is this one. You use these square brackets, and then you can introduce the key here. But the problem is that, for example, if I use a key that is not stored in this variable dictionary, so let's say I use this key. I run it. I run into errors. It says key error 1. What does it mean? It means it cannot find this key inside this dictionary variable. So what you need to do to avoid this error, like you want to say that even if the key doesn't exist, it does not give you error. Yeah. So there is a method that is a built-in method by Python introduced with Dix here. You just put a dot here, and then you use the method get. And here you put in the key. So let's say I put a wrong key here. You see none. It results in none. It means that this key does not exist inside this dictionary. So that's why it resulted in none. So that is one way to avoid having errors in your code if you don't know the key. So you can use this method. Yeah. So what I suggest is that using this, there are different methods that you can use, and they can. So for example, if I use key in the method keys, it should give me back the keys stored in the dictionary. So you see what happened here. It printed a list of the keys. So if I use the method keys, it gives me back all the keys but wrapped in a list. So on a list, you can do anything. You can do different math. You can do different. I mean, all the operations that are associated to a list, you can do there. So let's say what to do here is that my deck dot you have keys. So I have already talked about one method of a list operation that was sorted. So if I run this now, what happened here? So let me show you the other one. So you see the order of the keys have been changed according to the string. So this is one way to get the keys, to get the dictionary sorted in an order. Yeah. So let's say what you can do here. So store this to a variable. Let's say keys. So now keys, this variable keys is a list variable, as you can see here. Let's say you want to get a sorted dictionary with sorted keys. So for this, you have to introduce another dictionary. Let's say I use this on my dict one. And then I can say here for key inside this variable keys, which is a list of the keys. You can say here simply my dict one. And here you introduce the key. And you say that this key equals, and you go to my dict dot, sorry, and you put here the key. What happens here? As you are calling items from this variable, from this list keys, and this keys list has been already been sorted based on the integers, based on the string. Yeah. So what you're doing here by writing this line, you add keys and the values towards new dictionary in an order. Yeah. So let me run this. And let's say we go back and we go ahead. Yeah, this one. Let me just copy this one here and the same here. But this time here, I want to see from the one. Let me run this one. So you see how the order of the keys has been changed. Here it printed out name first, but here it printed out address first instead of the name. So this is just one way to change the order of the keys stored in the dictionary. But why you need to do it, I don't know. Nobody needs to do it because still you will be accessing the data stored there using the key. Okay. Now let us move towards. So we have already talked about this. My dict items. I want to show you one thing here. So let's say for item in my dict dot keys. I want to print the. I want to see what happens if I do this. My dict dot keys and what it returns. What does it return? Okay, yeah, it returns a key. So let's put here item. So now what does it return? It returns you something called that I have already been calling it name a key value pair. So this is your key. You have a comma and then you have value. So your key and value are separated by a comma. And we say it's a pair because you see there are only two values, so everything is a pair. And you have these brackets here, round brackets. So for sure for the list you have these brackets. But if you are looking for a dictionary, you have these brackets, curly brackets. So why do I see these brackets, these round brackets? So you know that the last item that it printed is already stored in this variable item. The print here, if I do item, run this, you see this is the last item. So let us look for the type of this item. It says it's a tuple, which brings me towards our next topic of today's discussion, which is a tuple. So let me go back towards the slides. We are here, back to the slides. So now we are talking about tuples. And you can see the first thing that I write here is that tuples are similar or they're the same as lists in terms of the definition that tuple is just a collection of items, same as list. List is just a collection of items. So similarly to list, tuples can have different data types collected in one pair. But what are the unlikes that don't work here as list? You can see we have already talked about this one. So in a list, yeah, okay, this is the first thing that you create a list using these square brackets, but you create the tuples using round brackets. But what is the actual difference here? The actual difference is this one. The data stored in a tuple cannot be changed. Why? Because in a list, when we were doing lists, we could point towards the index of a data And we could change its value, we could delete its value, or we could do other things with that one. But here, when you are indexing, okay, you can index a tuple similar to your list. But when you are indexing an item inside a tuple, you cannot do anything with it. You cannot delete it. You cannot change its value. It stays there. So that's why sometimes in programming they use this term called immutable. So immutable is something that is once created, it can never be deleted or changed. So let's move towards this programming VS Code. So here, yeah, we have to talk about tuples now. First thing first, like how can you create a tuple? It's the same. There are two methods. For example, there are two methods to create lists. So if you want to create list, you have to like a list. You have to use either square brackets or you can even call this function called list, and you can give in some numbers here. But still, for example, if you use this one here as this space to space, and you use this, and you run this, you receive an error. What is the error? So this list method expects only one argument instead, and I have given three. So what I can do to avoid this one is that either I can use this bracket here, and I run it. Okay, everything is fine. Or you can use this bracket. Everything is fine. So what does it mean? It means that you are giving one argument only because you packed all the data inside this bracket. So, and we have seen the similar method with dictionaries as well. There are two methods to create dictionaries. One is with these brackets, or the other one is that you can call the method itself called it. Similarly, if you want to create tuples, you have to use the similar approach. So this one here. Yeah. Now we are going to create tuple. So let me name tuple. So I have heard people saying this thing differently. Some people will say it's a tuple, and some people will say it's a tuple. It's up to you, whatever you like to call it. So one thing is that let me say, let me use this T1. You can use these brackets, and then you can introduce the tuple inside. So these are just collection of terms. And then you can have T2, and you can use this method. And then using this, you have to introduce, you can either introduce a list or you can introduce a tuple. So let's say I introduce a list. And I say 2, 3, or you say 3. I run this. I think it's fine. So let's type. Let's look for the type of T1 and okay, I printed only once because we have to use this statement. Print. Yeah, so you see both are tuples. So you can either simply use these round brackets to create a tuple, or you can, if you are creating a tuple from a list, you can call this function tuple. Or there is another way, like you can just simply remove this, and you can run this. But now I just list. Okay. So if you now you know if you do like this, it's just a list. But if you put the method here, you run this one, and it's done. So talk about indexing. Yeah. So this method is similar as in this. You just use the index, and you say, and the index always starts from 0. So let's say print given 0. So here you're saying that T1 0 at the 0th position in T1, we have this number 1. And at the first position, we have this letter A. So this is one way to access the items of a tuple. You can use for loop as we did in case of list. You can say for item inside, let's say T2. You can say print you see, this method is similar to this. We use this method in this, so we are doing the same here. So, what was I telling about you about changing the value of a tuple? So, let me introduce a list here, then you can have a better idea. How do I have a list? Yeah, so we already have a list here. So let's say you want to say like this. I want to change the value stored in this. And you want to change it to 50. Okay. So you print the list. So you see the values have changed. They are now 150 and 3, and before they were 120. But if you want to do the same with a tuple, it doesn't work. So we can do here. Just put T1. You see, you run into error and it says tuple object does not support this item is handled. So you cannot change the value of it. So let me see if I can delete this function. Yeah. So you see, if I call this function del and I give the index of the item inside this list, it automatically delete it. But if I do this, try to do the same here, you run into errors. It cannot be deleted. So you cannot change and you cannot delete an item stored in a tuple. Let me delete these. So what else can we do? Yeah. But you can do one more thing here. That's called list concatenation that we have learned about. So I have two lists here, LST and LST1. I can add these two lists and return the thing to another list. What you can do here is LST plus LST1. It works fine. And you can do the same for the tuples. Yeah? You can do here T3 is equals to LST1 plus T2. Run this and it works. So let me print out LST2 and 3. You see, now they have been concatenated. But these square brackets tell you that the first one is a list, and these round brackets, they tell you that the second item is a tuple. And you can use other functions. For example, you can use length, and you can see what is the length of the tuple. So so list and tuple are similar, but there is only one thing that you need to keep in mind, that in a tuple you cannot change the value or you cannot delete it. So this brings me to, let's go back to dictionaries. So when we were talking about introducing keys inside a dictionary, I told you that there are three data types that can be used as keys in a dictionary. But I told you I will introduce the third one later. So I already introduced a string and an integer. And the third data type that I'm going to introduce here is a tuple. So you can use a tuple as a key to the list. So let's say my date. Use a tuple t3. Let's say equals t1. You see it work. So you can just simply say my date here. Okay. So now you get this one. And I think it should also be using this one. This one. Okay, I ran into error because it cannot find this key inside this key name cannot be found inside this variable date. Before that, I have to run this one. Then go there. This one again. This one. Okay. Because this is my date. So where is mine? Okay. So it works now. So again. Yeah. So now you can see. So you see the keys. They can be strings or they can be tuples. Or you can even introduce so yeah, let me introduce that because integer. You see now you have integer. But as soon as you try to introduce a list here, run into errors. It is unhashable. So you cannot introduce a list as a key inside a dictionary, but you can introduce strings. You can use tuples, and you can use dictionary. Sorry, integer as a list. Yeah, integer as a key to a dictionary. I think that pretty much covers everything that I had to introduce in my course. So let me go back to, let us revise what we did. So we have talked about variables and the rules on how to name a variable. So these are the rules that you need to keep in mind before you name a variable when you're programming. And you need to, so it's not very difficult to remember all these data types that are present in Python. Then I have introduced very briefly all the operations that are possible using in string and list, but there are so many out there. I encourage you to do some intensive research on Google, and you can find all of them there. So we have already introduced what are functions and what are built-in functions that come with Python, and what are user-defined functions that you can define. That we did with the calculator example that we used. So yeah, we have already talked about different functions. We have already introduced operators. We know the most important one is assignment operator that we are using most of the times. And then you have comparison operators, you have arithmetic operators, you have logical operators. Then you were introduced with loops. So there were for and while loops, and then you can have nested loops. So this is just a scheme, or yeah, we call it a flowchart. So this is a flowchart on how loops work. And one key thing to remember is the difference between for loop and a while loop is this one. The for loop needs an iterable, whereas a while loop needs the condition to be true. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Otherwise, you exit the loop. Yeah. So you see, if iterable, if you have something to iterate over, you keep on iterating and you get to the end, then you just exit the loop. And similarly, if your condition keeps true, you go inside the loop. But once your condition is not true anymore, you just exit the loop. Yeah, and so talking about conditions, I introduced you with conditional statements. Conditional statements is a very important term here is decision. So they are used for decision. And this is just a simple flow chart. How you work with if statement and how you work with if else statements. And then you can have also have nested if else statements inside if else statements. So we already introduced you with how to make a calculator using the if else statements, and I encourage you to do as a home exercise. You could build a simple grading scheme based on, so you can create a criteria. So let's say you can say 50 to 60% is grade D, 40 to 50% is pass. So you can introduce different percentages, and you can assign them to different grades, and you can use if else statements to look if a number falls in which window, and you can tell them the grade. So this was the idea behind creating a simple grading scheme. And then today we talk about dictionaries. Dictionaries are very important when you are coding with Python. They really come in handy. They really let you avoid writing a lot of variables, because I can. Yeah, let us move back towards Visual Studio. So you see here the purpose and the useful thing that I see about using dictionaries is this. You see here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 variables that are packed inside one variable. So I don't need to introduce 6 variables separately. I introduce only one variable, my date, and then I introduce the keys towards these sticks, which you can think of as variables. So you don't need to remember all the variables. You just need to remember one variable, and you can access the data stored there by using the keys, which comes in very handy. Yeah, let's move back towards the slides. And then the last topic was the tuples, how to use them, how to introduce them, what are the benefits, or what are the possible things that you can do with tuples. I have introduced with, I think, most of them. But okay, the one thing is that I can never do the full introduction, or I can never give you all of the things in one session, or in just 1 hour you cannot get everything. So what I suggest you is that you do practice, keep practicing, keep on looking for all the possible things that are out there on the internet that you can find related to all of these topics that I have introduced here, and you can do these things at home. There is a lot of literature available on the internet, on the websites, in the books. You can have a lot of things, but the things that I have introduced here are the very basic things that you require if you want to advance your career as a programmer in Python or in any other language. You need to know the basics before moving towards extensive programming. So for a beginner's course, I think all those things that I have introduced here, all these things are more than enough. If you guys need advanced level course where you need to be introduced with, let's say there can be different things as class. You can have classes. You can have file handling methods inside Python. How to open a file, how to do some processing, how to write a file, or amend the files. Or you can move towards data science. So data science is like how you can retrieve data, how you can do different things on the data, how you can make it more presentable. All of these things, they require these basic things, these basic points that I have already introduced you. And this will really help you to move forward. If you have very good grip on these things, you are a good programmer, at least in my side. So yeah, that will be all for today. Signing off now. Have a good time. And if the response is good, we can introduce a new course for advanced level. Till then, have a good time and keep practicing.